stand in our way, and our golden age has just begun.
This is Human Events with Jack Posobiec.
Now it's time for everyone to understand what America First truly means. Welcome to the Second American Revolution.
All right, guys, Jack Posobiec. We are here, Human Events Daily, back Washington, D.C. Before we bring in our next guest here, I just wanted to take a quick moment and really let you guys know about, people say, how are you guys? You're going so hard. You're doing so many shows, hours upon hours of shows, traveling still all across the country, doing what we can to continue the work of Charlie Kirk. I don't even like to say carry the torch or the baton, but just making sure that Turning Point and the Turning Point legacy will continue forever. And I just got to say, folks, I would not have been able to do it without my friends at Blackout Coffee, because I am so glad that I have Blackout Coffee and that I have them, and they are here sponsoring Human Events Daily. Let me tell you something. They've released a new bag. We just got it at the house the other day. They released a special commemorative bag of coffee for Turning Point USA and Charlie Kirk's memory. I want you guys to go and get that. I want you to check it out. It's so wonderful that Blackout did this for us. And I'll tell you right now, Blackout Coffee is America in a cup. They were founded on Christian values. They're rooted in family, built on the belief that hardworking Americans deserve better than, the corporate swill that Andrew was spilling on himself earlier today. Blackout Coffee is a family business that roasts every batch right here in the USA. Two roasts you've got to try: Morning Reaper, that's a smooth medium roast that kicks off your day without any bitterness, and the Dark Roast Lovers Brutal Awakening. Personally, I like the Brutal Awakening. It is a bold, rich roast with deep flavor that will keep you sharp and alert. It's perfect for serving family and friends, or especially around the holidays, because let's face it, the best gatherings start with the best coffee. So here's the deal. Go to blackoutcoffee.com/POSO and use promo code POSO for 20% off your first order. That's blackoutcoffee.com/POSO. Support a company that shares your values, supports American jobs, and fuels your freedom one strong cup at a time. And I just want to say, for the record, that the coffee that Andrew spilled earlier today when he was co-hosting the Charlie Kirk Show was not Blackout Coffee. Should have got in there. Should have got in there. Folks, I'm very excited to bring on our next guest. You may know him. He's been out there quite a bit. It's his first time here, inaugural debut on Human Events Daily. His name is Dr. Joseph, Dr. Joseph Wittdoring, but most people just know him as Dr. Joseph. Doctor, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Jack. It's great to be here with you.
Well, you are the medical director of Taper Clinic. Tell folks a little bit about yourself and what brought you to public advocacy.
Sure. So I'm a traditionally trained psychiatrist, and I entered the psychiatric system and quickly realized that we were practicing a kind of turnstile type medicine where you would check in with a doctor for 5 to 10 minutes and they would prescribe you a medication. And that's not what I signed up to do. I really wanted to help people with the reasons why they were anxious and depressed. And we've completely gotten away from that in psychiatry. However, when I brought that up with my attendings at the time, they said, hey, Joseph, a lot of these concerns, they're overblown. FDA has approved these medications, they're safe and effective. And I just didn't buy it. So I ended up embarking on a career in clinical trial research where I worked for Johnson & Johnson. I then worked at the FDA doing clinical trial analysis. And I eventually came to the conclusion that I think modern psychiatry in many ways may be one of the biggest frauds going on right now, because none of the drugs are studied longer than a year. Doctors don't tell patients this. From the 10 years of doing this, I've seen many cases where they've made people worse. And for some people, coming off them can be incredibly challenging. And so having sort of seen how the sausage was made in the factory, I decided I didn't want to be a part of that. So 5 years ago, I founded the Taper Clinic, and it's a medical practice where we help people come off psychiatric medications that are making them worse, and then we teach them non-drug approaches to manage their mental health.
Well, this is really incredible because, we do seem to suffer from a mental health crisis in this country, and many of which has unfortunately led to violence. We see so many active shooters these days that are tied to antidepressants, that are tied to psychiatric medication. And I've talked about publicly on the show, but I realize you probably don't really know that my father and my grandmother actually both worked in a psychiatric hospital for their entire careers before my father retired, about 29 years or so. And that model of medicine was totally different than what we've seen already, especially for people who need that long-term institutionalization. It's completely been done away with, and now we sort of have them out in the general population where people, doctors seem to just throw a script at somebody and let them back out on the street. And unfortunately, we do see a link between this and violence. Do you think there's a reason that that for some reason in society today we don't have more discussion or more public discussion about this link?
Yes. So the truth is, Jack, that most psychiatrists they act more like advocates for the medications rather than really taking a more clinical look at things. And I think, the pharmaceutical industry, I have to say, they control a huge amount of medicine right now. I mean, these are trillion-dollar industries. And essentially, when you do that, you can promote certain perspectives. You can pick certain doctors within medical institutions, and you can let them run the clinical trials. You can help their careers. And what eventually happens is you see at this, like the upper echelon of the medical education system is you have drug-friendly professors. I mean, how could it be any other way, when there's this influence going on? And because of that, they are very much persuaded by arguments where if you talk about the risks of these medications, you are going to make people commit suicide. And there's a strong parallel with the whole transgender issue because, we all saw after the WPATH files came out that there were some really concerning issues about kids not even being able to give informed consent to taking drugs and doing surgeries that could impact their fertility later on. And that was essentially silenced because they said, well, if you say these things, we're going to lose ground. It's going to make people second guess, and it's going to lead to more suicides. These positions, they often come from, they're masquerading as compassion, to be honest. They're saying, well, we don't want to tell people the truth or the concerns about these issues because it's going to lead to harm. But that's not really compassion. They usually have a political agenda. And that's why the American public haven't really been told the truth and the facts about the roles that these drugs, psychiatric ones, can have in violence.
They certainly can. And so, I'd be remiss if I didn't say this, but I just wanted to dive right in that, here I am, I find myself in this situation where one of my close personal friends, someone who up until 1 month ago was an incredibly well-known public figure, Charlie Kirk, was assassinated and was killed by someone who, now, as far as we know, was not a transgender individual himself, but apparently was in a relationship with a transgender boyfriend. This alleged assassin murderer, Tyler Robinson, found himself at the top of a school building hours away from where he lived, and he had been this very exceptional student prior to this, yet somehow drops out of a full ride to Utah State, gets involved in a very strange, odd relationship with a transgender individual, and then goes and there's all this evidence linking him now to the murder of my friend. And I just wonder, how do you begin to unpack the mind of someone who would do such a thing for seemingly such a strange motive?
So I think, based off the text messages that were sent, this was coming, this had a romantic aspect to it. I believe that Tyler felt that his partner was being threatened by the things that Charlie Kirk was saying. And the truth is that, in today's world, we can very easily fall into echo chambers, which really radicalize us. And the main messaging happening in a lot of these echo chambers is that, Charlie Kirk is a fascist. His words, they're not just words, they're dangerous, and they're leading to people dying. And so when you look at it in that way, and then also just these broader things happening in society, I mean, the transgender agenda really is decreasing. It is less and less popular every day, especially since the WPATH files. And there's not a whole group of people sort of cheering this on now. These individuals are becoming, I think a lot of them are starting to feel very isolated and out of place and threatened. And so if you feel like your partner is very threatened and you're bought into this idea that words are violence and they're leading to people dying, you might go and do something very drastic, such as assassinate essentially someone who did not deserve it, because in some way, in some fantasy in your mind, you think this makes you a hero and you're saving people.
So in his mind, it's not necessarily just the anger at Charlie Kirk or by itself. It's also the sense of defense of others, defense of his lover in this case. That in order to defend my lover, I must, position this person who is somehow threatening to him, and I'm trying to walk myself through it and wrap my mind around it, in order to protect them, even though I presumably Charlie has never even met this person, and it seems that there's a dissociation here, isn't that right?
Yes, yeah. I mean, that's what I think has happened. And, the saddest part about this is after Charlie's death, I went and I watched some of the videos where he would actually talk to transgender individuals on college campuses. He said some of the kindest things ever. I mean, he stuck to his guns. But I remember one thing he said to an individual who was talking about their difficulty with their gender identity. He said, I just hope that one day you can love the body that you were given. And it was very well received by the person. I could see it. And there was just a gentleness about him. Charlie didn't hate the transgender community. Charlie, I mean, he said what he believed about it, but he was actually very kind. And so, I mean, that's what makes this a huge tragedy. Is I don't think the other side sees that. What I think they see is a very radicalized, one-sided perspective, and
I think that's right.
And
Dr. Joseph, we're coming up on a very quick break. Hold that thought. We'll be right back. Human Events Daily, Real America's Voice.